Alright, so today we're looking at the area of trapezoids, rhombi, and kites. So our other three for the quadrilaterals that we've covered. So we're going to again see height in these equations, especially with trapezoids. And again, height is what's a line that's perpendicular to a base. And remember, on trapezoids, our base are our parallel sides. So it doesn't have to be up and down. It just needs to be perpendicular with the bases, one of the two sides that are parallel. So area of trapezoid is 1/2 height times the base 1 plus base 2, and this is order of operations. Remember to do that first on there. So here 1/2 height is 1, because that's that perpendicular line to our bases, times 3 plus 2.5. So 1/2 1 times 5.5 equals 2.75 centimeters squared. Labels very important because we're talking about square units, which are totally different than length units, linear units. All right, so we did one kind of like that. Looking here, I'm not given this base. So I'm going to have to find that base, but I'm giving quite a bit of information. I know if this is 90, that is 4. So I can find this length, which would be the extra that is not this base. What is more on that 9 feet? So I'm going to set this up with Pythagorean theorem. So 4 squared plus, let's call this length A. A squared equals 5 squared. So 16 plus A squared equals 25. Subtract 16. A squared equals 9. So A equals 3. So this length here is 3, which makes that length 6, and this 6. Then I can find my area of my trapezoid, but you also could just use, find area of this rectangle and then this triangle and add those together. That will work too. We can stick it into the formula, or we can use what we know is math that we've seen before. So height again is 4. Area of my two bases are 6 and 9. So 1/2 4 times 15. And you can do half of either of those numbers. So you would get 30 feet squared. Okay, and again, I'll let you go ahead and do this next one. Same type of method. Then we go to our areas of a rhombus or a kite. Those are the same, but remember some of our characteristics. A rhombus is a parallelogram, so these diagonals split in half. They're not equal to each other, but they split in half. And this is 90 degrees perpendicular. This is 90 here, and these two sides are split in half on a kite. These are not. So we need to remember those properties for when we have missing parts. But here, area of this kite would be 1/2 7 times 12. So 42 feet squared. Here, this rhombus, we're going to have to fill in some information. So I know that's 7, and this is 9. So I do 1/2 this whole diagonal here, which is 14, times 18. So 126 inches squared. Okay, so I'll let you work those problems out there on your own. Let's look at plugging these in. We saw yesterday a little bit on the last lesson about algebra. So again, with this important thing is we need to remember, so we have a formula for a rhombus. Area of a rhombus is 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. So we're going to see what information I can have to plug in for all these variables. We need to only have one variable at the end. So the area of the rhombus is 64. So my area equals 64. And one diagonal of a rhombus is half as long as the other. So let's say diagonal 1 is 1/2 diagonal 2. It really doesn't matter which way we put that. So then we know diagonal 1 is the only one I don't have an equation for, or diagonal 2, sorry, is diagonal 2. So now I just have one variable, which is diagonal 2. So plug all that in. So I'd have 64 equals 1/2 diagonal 1, which is 1/2 diagonal 2, times diagonal 2. So I get 64 equals 1/2 times 1/2 is 1/4. Diagonal 2 times diagonal 2 is diagonal 2 squared. So we can multiply by that reciprocal of 1/4 to get rid of that. So dividing by 1/4 is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. So 128, nope, 256, excuse me. Equals my diagonal 2 squared, and then square root both sides. And so diagonal 2 equals 16. Once I have diagonal 2, I can find diagonal 1, because diagonal 1 is half that. So diagonal 1 is 1/2 of 16, which is 8. And we are in inches for my label. Right, that's pretty much everything. There's a few more examples on your notes, but I would work those out, see how you do. If you have questions, let me know.